Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome my Hadith disciples and disciples to another exclusive edition of Hadith Disciple Critical Book Review. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi amma ba'd. The work that we have with us today, bidnillahi ta'ala, is called The Place of Hadith in Islam. Makanatul Hadith fil Islam. And is by the Muslim Student Association of the United States and Canada. Once more, The Place of Hadith in Islam, Makanatul Hadith fil Islam, by the Muslim Students Association of the United States and Canada. This is a very small booklet, walillahi alhamd, but it's very beneficial, it's very useful, it's a good read. And alhamdulillah, that is our general view and outlook of the book, is that it is a good book, something that should be in your pocket, something that should be on your shelf, something that you can enjoy riding, driving, walking, bidnillahi ta'ala, which is highly informative. That's our general view of the book. As far as the specifics of the book, this book is relatively rare. It's relatively rare. There's no printing information available in the book. Some humble research led me that it was to the fact that it was printed on January 1st, 1977. January 1st, 1977. So it's a bit old, and it's also a bit rare, a bit classic-like. The printer here, it says Ad-Dar al-Alamiyya lil-Kitab al-Islami, International Islamic Publishing House, IIPH, which is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Is this the original print of the book, or is it a reprint of the original work? Allah surely knows best. But this version of the book is from 1977. I did a bit of research online, and I only found one copy of the book on Amazon. I didn't find any other sites, any other forums, any other places in which the book is sold, nor did I find a PDF for the book. So the book is relatively rare. So therefore, it's from 1977. Me personally, I bought this book when I was in Saudi Arabia some years back, walillahi alhamd, at the Ubay Khan bookstore. You can see the tag back there. After that, we start off with the contents. First and foremost, it says messages. Then it says welcome to the seminar by Iqbal J. Yunus, Relevance of the Hadith of the Prophet to Religious and Social Life in Modern Times by Sayyid Abul Hassan Ali Nadwi. Hadith, Rules for Acceptance and Transmission, Professor Mustafa Azami. A lesson from history, Dr. Muhammad Natsir. The study of Hadith and modern academics, Past, Present, and Future by Dr. William A. Grimm. Doubts and Certainties, Isnad and its Significance by Professor Mustafa Azami. Indispensability of Hadith by Dr. Khalid Alvi. Then after that, it has the messages, which is like a preface or an introduction. A few contributors to that. And then we have the different topics. In the end of the book, it says the steering committee for the seminar. Program, Dr. Muzammil Siddiqui, VP Ahmed Kudi, Irfan Ahmed Khan, Omar Farooq Abdullah. Arrangement, Dr. Mir Shamsuddin. Internal coordination, Nazruddin Ali. External coordination, Dr. Ahmed Sakr, Dr. Jamal Al-Barazinji. Publication, Shafi A. Baubel. Publicity and information, Dr. Abdul Samad Patel. Seminar chairman, Atikur Rahman. For general information, Atikur Rahman, Abdul Samad Patel. So that is the basic information on the book. It says here in the opening page, proceedings of the seminar on Hadith to celebrate the 1200th anniversary of the great Muhaddith Imam al-Bukhari. So this book was put together to commemorate and to celebrate 1200 years after the death or the birth of Imam al-Bukhari. That's the reason why they put the book together. Some Muslims in the United States and Canada, they had a seminar. They put together these lectures, these articles to celebrate the birthday of Imam al-Bukhari. That's the origin or the original purpose of the book, or the reason why the book was put together. Khairan inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the book is basically a compilation of articles. Whether they're written articles, whether they're transcribed lectures, it's a compilation of these different various contributors. And it was put together by these students in this MSA from the United States and from Canada in the 70s. Khairan inshallah. Now let's get started with the prose of the book. The prose of the book. Or let's read the introduction inshallah. It says here, messages. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for your kind invitation, 11th of June 1975, to attend the Hadith seminar being held in Chicago by the MSA to commemorate the 1200th anniversary of Imam Bukhari. I regret to say that, on account of my poor health, I find it exceedingly difficult to undertake any journey, not to speak of a trip to the United States. I therefore request you kindly excuse my presence in the seminar. I am, however, greatly pleased at the fact that the MSA is conducting such a seminar in honor of one of the all-time great figures of Islam. This commemoration will not only be a tangible manifestation of the ardent Islamic spirit possessed by our brethren in the United States and Canada, it will also blaze a trail for Muslim organizations working anywhere in non-Muslim societies to give a fillip to their efforts to spread the message of Islam. I, for my part, pray to Allah to accept your noble endeavor and enable you to render even greater services to Islam in the future. I warmly congratulate you on holding this seminar and pray for its complete success. I had received your letter in time, but ill health prevented me from answering it promptly. Please convey my salam and good wishes to the participants of the seminar. Yours sincerely, Abul Ala Maududi. Then it says, the MSA deserves congratulations for organizing this international seminar on Hadith in order to spotlight the importance of Hadith in Islam and to create interest in its study. I'm sure the seminar will succeed in achieving both the ends, inshallah. As a student of Islam, it is the second objective that I feel more interested, as we Muslims are fully aware of the central place of Hadith in Islam. I wish the deliberations at this seminar result in some practical measures for prompting Hadith studies. I have long felt the need for a fresh understanding of a Hadith relating to economic and political affairs, a deeper insight into the socio-economic background, and for an attempt to relate these with our own historical conditions, in order fully to avail ourselves of the guidance that these Hadith provide us today at the operational level. Another long-felt need is for such indexes, dictionaries, and encyclopedias, which will make it easier to locate a particular Hadith, get expert opinions on its authenticity, know its historical context, and know its interpretation by eminent scholars and jurists. It is in the fitness of things that this seminar is being organized to commemorate the 1200th anniversary of one who dedicated his life to the collection of Hadith, sifting the genuine from the spurious and distinguishing between the more authentic and lesser ones, and relating them to the relevant verses from the Quran. Let the unsurpassed example of Imam Bukhari inspire modern Hadith scholarship. He says, let the unsurpassed example of Imam Bukhari inspire modern Hadith scholarship. That's the Hadith Renaissance. The Hadith Renaissance. Let those great ulama of the past, why do we read about their lives? Let it be an inspiration for modern Hadith scholarship. A wish that is motivated by a proper introduction of his life and work to our own generation through seminars of this kind. I wish this seminar a success and keenly await in print the valuable contributions made by the distinguished scholars participating in it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Muhammad Nijatullah Siddiqui, Department of Economics, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh, India. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Then we have another introduction. We have rather two more. So the introductions, and then before we move on, as a disclaimer, we're not here to discuss the ruling on commemorating or celebrating a birthday. Is it permissible to celebrate someone's birthday? Is it permissible to commemorate or have an anniversary for the birthday of Imam Bukhari? We're not here to discuss that. Some of the contributors, the introduction, this one, we're not here to discuss their personalities and their dawah stances and their political views. That's not our discussion. Hadith Disciple, as we've said before, and we'll say again, and especially this playlist is made to look at the books that serve Hadith. The books that add and contribute to the Hadith Renaissance, to the Hadith movement, to the Hadith revival, to the Hadith resurrection. Nothing more. The personalities, their agendas, their manahij of da'wah, that is outside of our immediate discussion. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. So let's get started with the prose of the book. Hopefully the topic of the book is clear. And as you can see from these two brief passages, the classic nature of the book, the style of the book, and the importance of the book. And this was done in 1975. We live in 2017. So there were these men and these women who were speaking about reviving Hadith scholarship, properly understanding Hadith, historical context, the economic parallels. This is in the 70s. What about 2017? Moving forward, the prose of the book. Number one, it's diversity. The articles, the contributors, very diverse. Number two, it contains academia. Number three, it contains historical context. Number 4, it deals with social realities. Number 5, the depth of the book. Number 6 is fluid reading style. Number 7, rudimentary basics, fundamental basics. The simple rudiments of hadith are mentioned in this book. Number 8, critical discussions and tackling of many issues critically. Number 9, the book marries between ancient and modern, east and west. Number 10, it includes the work or the works of some specialists. At least one of the contributors for sure is an actual hadith specialist. Number 11, some of its articles bring up problems and solutions. Number 12, some of the articles bring up doubts and give their answers. Number 13, many articles critically or show or gives the crucial importance of the things that took place upon or to this nation, the hammer blows that the Muslims suffered from, whether it's the missionaries, Christian missionaries, whether it was the Orientalists, whether it was the Crusaders, whether it was the conquerors, the imperialists, France and Germany, Italy, Great Britain, and how they conquered the lands of many Muslims, and they also conquered their minds. So this book, it deals with this harsh and bitter reality, many blows that took place to the Ummah of Islam. Number 14, the many articles in the work, it deals with the pressing issue of modern revivalists and modern revivalist movements. People who wish to make tajdeed, who wish to renew, who wish to revive. Those who are right, those who are wrong, those who stray, and those who pump, propagate, those who push hadith and sunnah as the spearhead of any revivalist movement. Moving forward, number 15, the book sheds light upon the thoroughness of the sunnah, the richness of the sunnah. Number 16, many of the works are actually critical. Not only does it critically attack and address issues, but the actual articles themselves, many of them are critical. Number 17, it is a rare work. As we said, it's relatively hard to find this book. Number 18, the book does a good job in merging hadith and Islam. Merging hadith and Islam. Number 19, the book promotes the hadith spirit of hadith. Last but not least, number 20, it is a what? Khairan inshallah. Many of these articles orbit around the hadith renaissance. Khairan inshallah. Let's get started with the cons of the book, which they are drastically less, far less than the pros of the book. The first con is lack of information about the contributors. We don't have brief biographies. Who's this doctor? Who's this professor? Who's this person? Number 2, the book brings up a few controversial issues. First and foremost is the birthday of Imam al-Bukhari. Number 3 is lack of citation. In many of the articles, if not most of the articles, we don't have the necessary footnotes and references. Number 4, the reason behind the book being an issue of controversy, as we just said, the concept of commemorating the birthday. So we have just 4 cons in light or in contrast to 20 pros. Obviously, that's a considerable difference. Let's get started with some notable quotes on page 10. It says, in our world, a lamp is lighted by another lamp. He says, in our world, a lamp is lighted by another lamp. The true Islamic morality, which along with belief and action is seen in the lives of the companions and their faithful successors, and their lofty idealism and deep religious feeling are not merely due to the recitation of the book, but have also been instilled by the most inspiring and lovable personality that was before them all the time. These are the effects of the life and character as well, which the holy companions could see and observe during all hours of the day and night, and of the company, discourses and exhortations from which they used to profit continually during the lifetime of the Prophet. The special temperament of Islam evolved as a result of the assemblage of all these factors, in which there was not only the habitual obedience to commands and injunctions, but a growth of the true spirit was characterized by the urge to act on them. Side by side with compliance with rules and regulations and the rendering of rights, this spirit also possessed the ability to conceive the subtleties of tender emotions and refined feelings. Then we have on page 14, says here, starting on page 13, on the same basis, think of the other obligatory duties of Sawm, fasting, Zakat, poor due, and Hajj, pilgrimage, and judge yourself how far they can retain their effectiveness and the ability to stir the deepest feelings of the devotees and prove helpful in the building up of a new society and these acts of worship are shown or shorn of the virtues and formalities mentioned in the traditions and isolated from the atmosphere we have just indicated. Then we have on page 41, there are many notable quotes. We'll only mention 3. This will be the last one. Page 41, it states, Isnad and its significance. The beginning of Isnad. It appears that Isnad was used casually in some literatures in the pre-Islamic period, in a vague manner, without attaching any importance to it. The Isnad system was also used to some extent in transmitting pre-Islamic poetry. But it was in the Hadith literature that its importance culminated till it was counted as a part of the religion. The advantage of the system was utilized to the full, and in some cases to extravagant limits, for documenting the Hadith literature, the storeroom for the Sunnah. The Sunnah of the Prophet being the basic legal source, it was natural to deal with these documents with the utmost care. Thus, the introduction of Isnad, a unique science, ilm al-jarh wa ta'dil, came into existence for the valuation of Isnad and Hadith. Now let's get to a few specific sins of the book, some scientific errors of the book. Let's start off with page 26. There aren't that many. We'll just mention maybe 1 or 2, if that. Page 26, it says, in my opinion, Islam is not the privilege of traditional ulama anymore. It has become the field of mature minds, not necessarily those who have studied in the famous religious universities of the Middle East, but those who are familiar with the comparative studies of religions and ideologies. Of course, knowledge of Arabic is necessary, but is within the reach of every serious student. So the author of this article, first and foremost, he clearly mentions my opinion, and that's fine. That's a praiseworthy thing. He didn't say that is Islam, he says my opinion. He says that Islam is no longer exclusive. It is no longer just monopolized by the aristocrats, the ulama. Okay, those who are born and raised and bred in this background of knowledge and fiqh and understanding, which is relatively correct. Islam is for anyone who wishes to learn it, anyone who wishes to study it. It is not about your blood or your pedigree or your background or the pigmentation of your skin or how old you are, how big your belly is, how white your beard is. No, it's for anyone that has the proper qualifications and the necessary efforts to get it. However, as if the author is saying, you don't have to study in the universities overseas in the Middle East. We also agree with that. It's not mandatory to go overseas. It's mandatory to learn from the proper source. It's mandatory to master the basics. It's mandatory to get licensed and certified from a master, whether it's in the West or the East. Medina, Egypt, Syria, Timbuktu, Malaysia. That's not important. What's important is the actual source and the licensing is correct. And what better place could there be except for the place where Islam started? What better place to learn Arabic, to learn Hadith, to learn Quran, except for the people who speak that language? And it's an integral part of their character, an integral part of their culture. So that doesn't make too much sense. Let alone he says that as long as you study the ideologies and comparative religions, that's enough to understand Islam. And that's total falsehood. So if I study comparative religion in school at the University of Penn or Harvard, then I'm a qualified scholar of Islam to talk. No, that's incorrect. Let alone the fact he says that Arabic is necessary. Just Arabic? Is that enough? The pagans of Quraysh, they were masters of Arabic, and they were ignorant, and they were misguided, and they were misled. So that statement is wrong, and that's incorrect, even though some of it is relatively correct. Khair, inshallah, we'll just suffice ourselves with that one specific sin. Let's go to page 37 for a new critique, a new critical mark that we've introduced. We're going to introduce now, and it's called serious things, or things that seriously needed to be reconsidered. Things that seriously need to be reconsidered. In the previous book reviews, we've given the general background of the book, the general opinion of the book, the contents of the book, the introduction of the book, the preface of the book, the excerpt on the back of the book. All right. We dealt with the pros of the book, the cons of the book, the notable quotes of the book, the specific sins of the book. That's our general grading system. Now we're going to introduce another piece or another ruler, another yardstick, and that is things that seriously need to be reconsidered. It's not necessarily a pro. It's not necessarily a con. It's not necessarily a specific sin. It's not necessarily a notable quote, but it's something that يحتاج إلى إعادة نظر, that needs to be seriously reinvestigated. And that is on page 37. It says here, here we reach the period of Al-Bukhari. And he says he was born 194 to 256 after the Hijrah, who showed intelligence and ability to examine Isnad by putting a criterion for the transmitter. he succeeded in scrutinizing hadith with the best isnad and incorporated them in his Jami' al-Sahih. From the above mentioned explanation, we conclude that hadith was really transmitted by the companions of the Prophet. Some wrote and many remembered. It is true that during the Umayyad and the beginning of the Abbasid period, people fabricated hadith for political purposes. But finally, hadith was collected systematically and scientifically by many scholars, of whom al-Bukhari was the most important. So there are many things that need to be reinvestigated. Imam al-Bukhari only made the criterion for hadith the isnad and not the metin, not the actual context, the actual wording of the hadith. You really seriously need to reconsider what you wrote. Or it says here that the hadiths were fabricated during the Umayyad dynasty and the Abbasid dynasty. Is that wrong or incorrect 100%? Not necessarily, but that is directly from the influence of the Orientalists. And as their main claim is that the fabrication only became or was a result of the wars between Muawiyah and Ali, and the descendants of Muawiyah and the people who supported Ali, so on and so forth. And the list goes on. The Dawla Abbasiyya, Dawla Umayyah, and other factions and political groups as well. Did people fabricate hadiths because of political reasons? Without doubt. Did they fabricate hadiths, make spurious hadiths to support Ali, to condemn Muawiyah, to support Muawiyah and condemn Ali? There's no doubt about that. Are there virtues, authentic virtues of Ali, authentic virtues of Muawiyah? There's no doubt about that. Things that Muawiyah and his descendants and disciples did for Islam. Things that Ali radiallahu anhu and his descendants did for Islam. There's no question about that. But the problem is that this is the main jab of the Orientalists. This is the main thing that they use to make the Muslim have doubt about the authenticity and the genuineness of the hadiths. They say that the hadiths were fabricated to support the madhabs, to support the political factions, which they were, but not on the scale that the Orientalists wanted to be. And not in the way in which the Orientalists wanted to be, let alone they make that the asl of the hadith. So that's something that seriously needs to be reconsidered. Khairan, inshallah. At the end of the day, it's a very good book, a very beneficial read, and we give it 4.5 quills. 4.5 quills out of 5 quills. Once again, the place of hadith in Islam by the Muslim Students Association of the United States and Canada. If you get a chance to buy the book, if you can find it in Saudi, you may have a better chance finding it in Saudi than in America. Inshallah, get the book. If not, then hopefully, b'idhnillahi ta'ala, one of the disciples can volunteer to make a PDF of the book and make it available for free usage, not for selling it, inshallah ta'ala. Hopefully that's not an infringement of copyrights. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shooting us best. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.